Which means the Ken Next moment is on its way.
That's on its way right now.
Well, I just think that, hey, there it is. No, what Rebecca's saying, though, is so true. And being able to listen to the call, it comes back down to your intentionality when you go to work. And I know that is really one of the toughest things to find in today's space, regardless, car business or regular, any old business, is people, all right? The human capital, and finding the right people who really want to stretch themselves and become the next superstars. Like she just said, Rebecca was a superstar and still is a superstar, and that's why she works with us, but the journey is one that comes down to constant and never-ending improvement. I know that's kind of cliche and all, but ultimately I think is hiring the right people, giving them the right tools, the process to hold everyone accountable so they can become the best version of themselves day to day. And to Rebecca's point, I will tell you, I've trained literally in my 30 years of traveling and training, no lie, hundreds of thousands of people. I can count on one hand the Rebeccas of the world, and she's like the top. I will say this though, with Rebecca,
that is why we nickname her MIT.
Yeah.
Internally, we nickname her MRT, and that's because her mom is actually a professor at MIT.
Yeah.
So she's got the brain trust there.
No doubt.
She's definitely got it. Super smart.
Yeah, the photographic memory. I would listen to her actually, and it's like, what the hell? What the heck? She's just like said exactly what I just said.
Why I never put anything in writing.
Right. Smart. That's smart. No.
Sorry, kidding.
No.
Kidding. I do have one thing though. I don't mean to interrupt you, but so one of the topics that we wanted to talk about were, especially with this, because Rebecca's speaking. I don't know, for the audience out there, for you guys out there, Rebecca will be speaking at Digital Dealer coming up in October, and again, a focal point of today's episode, is women in automotive and how important that is, and how impactful it can be. But one of the things we were talking about before was the defining moments, right? Now, I wasn't in the room, so I'm going to volley this back to Rebecca and Ken on this, but I remember you guys telling me the story, Ken, and again, Rebecca, this is your story too. I'm just going to pass it back to you guys, but I think it's a great story. That's why I want to bring this up and make sure it gets mentioned. Defining moments, right, in our career. We all can look back on maybe one point, and I don't know if this is yours, Rebecca, or Ken's, but I just think it's an incredible story, which is where Ken, you were pushing.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
To get Rebecca elevated, and I'm going to end it there because you guys were actually in the room. I wasn't, but you got to hear this. It's an incredible story.
All right, so here's how it goes. I'm doing consultative work, just real quick background. I've been doing, me and a guy by the name of John Traver, the co-developers of BDC, so I've been out doing training and consulting in car dealerships since 1992. So anyway, the dealership that Rebecca was working at, she was a business development representative. And the owner says to me, hey man, we need to get a manager back there. Who do you recommend? Do you have anybody we could recommend? I said, yeah, I would say Rebecca would be the perfect person for that position. And he's like, no, I got to get a guy back there. I need a guy back there. Listen, this is crazy, but this is real deal. It's a real story. I need a guy back there. What about this person? He mentions the guy's name. I'm like, no, that guy is totally not the right guy. He's like zero personality. Don't put him back there. Nah, I think, he's bringing me in to train and consult, but he's like telling me no. So he promotes this guy from the floor and puts him back there. And so like within 30 days, he's gone. And he's like, hey, I really need to get someone back there. And I'm thinking, well, I told you who I recommended. I think you need to put Rebecca back there. She's amazing. She'll do a great job for you. No, I'm thinking of this other guy. I'm thinking, no, that guy's like, honestly, he has I don't want to, he's this wrong guy. He very, very ADHD massively and jumping all over the place. You got someone who's got to be stable, really process driven, understands the call guides, can take the hot transfers or take the TOs on a fly. Really need someone like that. Rebecca's perfect. I'm telling you, make her the manager. Nah. So he promotes this other guy. I'm thinking, really? What am I here for? So then, a month and a half, 2 months go by. He's like, Miss, my BDC really sucks, man. I need a better person. I said, Rebecca, are you hear me out? Put her back there. So he does. Finally, probably 6-7 months later. And ultimately what happens, is she kicks ass on this deal, right? And she grows this thing like I knew she would. And ultimately, she becomes the right hand to the general manager and runs this store that nets $1 million a month.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, Rebecca. Your version of the story here about how that whole process played out, because I think it's important. As again, every day there's a new generation of automotive,
Yeah.
especially women, right? Coming on board. They need to hear it from your point of view about kind of what your experience was and how that may have been, a defining moment in your career.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to elaborate. I think it's important. I want to lead with me as a human being and a person. My core values were established at a very young age, and I'm very lucky to have the father that I have. So, my work ethic was started at 6, 7 years old, and he told me there's 2 things in life. 1, you need to understand the word acceptance. 2, nothing stands in your way. Nobody and nothing. And I you can hear that at a young age, but to practice it and truly understand that is a different thing. So what Ken is speaking about here, while he was going through all these conversations with, the owner, I had absolutely zero clue that those were happening. Because at the end of the day, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if they wanted a male figure, right, person in that BDC manager spot. I was going to come to work every day and win. Every day, no matter what. And I knew one day I would get get that break that I was looking for, didn't know what it was. So luckily I had mentorship from, Ken Kingstead over here that I'm forever grateful for. So what I would say to women in automotive is act as if it is a even playing field, because it is for you as a person. If you have goals, if you have aspirations, if you want to grow, if you set your sights on something, you can achieve it, period. You just have to believe in yourself. So once I took over the Sales Business Development Center, I was able to take my skills, create processes, and the BDC became my baby. The employees that I was able to mentor and coach and really teach a skill that is going to help you in other areas of your life was the most rewarding part for me, and still is today. With doing that and being successful, I was able to take over the Service Business Development Center and develop that from the ground up. At that time, I found a really huge love for fixed operations because of where I came from. Turning wrenches, understanding, what's going to happen if your vehicle overheats, right? Being able to have those intelligent conversations and coach people to have those intelligent conversations made a seamless transition from calling and scheduling an appointment to showing up in the service drive and having a intentional conversation with the service advisor.
Which is really cool, in that regard, because you don't see that that often in today's environment, where that somebody like yourself is actually that versed in being able to coach people, in that regard, whether they are, and there are, I would imagine you probably would agree that that there is a solid path for women to excel in the service department, who have the natural ability to apply what they're trained on and what they learn into those areas. And I think that's why that you're seeing that growth, that accelerated growth that we just talked about in the company now, because you primarily oversee the service BDC aspects of our company now. So if and your entire story is fascinating. I don't know if there's a more compelling story out there of somebody committing themselves to learning, advancing, and then sharing, in an unselfish fashion, everything that they've learned and passing it on to other associates and other people under your charge.